What's the most hurtful thing someone has ever said to you?
Hey folks, quick content warning for this whole video. There are going to be a lot of stories dealing with emotional abuse and some that even address attempted self-termination. And so if you find yourself sensitive to these topics, this is just a warning to kind of, brace yourself, or you may even want to skip this video. Story 1. I had a theater teacher/director pull me aside after a show that I totally spaced a cue/line. It honestly was a super insignificant line, and the other actor improvised very well. And she straight up told me, "Putting you in this show was the biggest mistake I've ever made. You're a disappointment." She got fired 2 years later and went to jail for a couple of years for banging my best friend's cousin, who was a 15-year-old student. I wonder if putting me in a play with one line was the biggest mistake she's ever made. I'm a theater teacher/director, and the comment your teacher said to you was and is the worst possible thing to say to a student actor. The student, a child, has worked on something for months and experienced a temporary moment of losing their train of thought. They already know they screwed up, so why twist the knife? When that happens with my students, I always say, "Meh, who cares? That's live theater. You'll get it next time." I'm sorry that teacher said that to you. Edit, edited words for clarity. Edit 2. When a student messes up a line or something, I also praise them for their recovery and how they got back on track. So you made a mistake. Who cares? That's live theater. Look at how you recovered. You did exactly what you were supposed to do when it happened. Think of how many individual elements a person has to remember in a show. Be in your backstage place, on time for your entrance, wait for your cue, open the door, enter, take 3 steps to your left, notice the other actor, act surprised at what they say your line with the correct wording and inflection, grab your prop, etc. All of those things happen within 6 seconds. Now multiply that hundreds of times over the course of a 2-hour play. And you're upset you messed up one line? Pfft, who cares? I'm proud of you. Yeah, I'm sorry, no. Any theater director, especially in high school, who would say that is just awful. They shouldn't be doing that. It is part of school. It's part of learning. It isn't about, casting, future movie leads in every single particular role. It's about teaching those people, and mistakes happen. I've done a ton of theater in my life, and I have made some mistakes. I've flubbed lines. I've seen lines flubbed, and we fixed it on the spot, we ran with it. We figured stuff out. We had a laugh about it afterwards. It always happens. That's live theater. And that's part of the joy of live theater, is learning how to kind of deal with that stuff. So yeah, no, that theater director for that high school just sounds awful. Also because of being a creepy pedo. Story 2. You are nice, but damn, I have rarely seen someone as ugly as you. For context, teenagers, summer camp, I was 17. This guy was supposed to be someone I was getting along with quite well, the whole group, but we were a few beings always together. I was seated chatting with him, with the whole group, and he came to say that randomly. I wasn't even interacting with him. He said my name so that he could have my attention. It's like he needed to say it in front of everyone, and he didn't feel like he was saying something wrong, what is weird is that he wasn't even laughing. It's not like someone or some people were trying to make fun of me. It was so harsh that people were speechless. No one laughed at all. I think they were as confused as I was. I appreciate it. No one jumped on after those what the F 20 seconds. They were all like, nothing happened. I am 35 and still remember this. Knowing how teenagers can be cruel, I hate this had a huge impact on me, but I remember people really tried to not make it a big deal. The group didn't fall into that crap, and they were between 15 to 17 years old. I think someone even said to the guy, "Are you being serious right now?" But I'm not sure. I was really trying to swallow the humiliation. Edit. I posted yesterday my night here just because I felt like it was not waiting for my answer at all. I woke up and saw your comments and was again confused why so many people gave attention to my post. Thank you for your support. I feel fine today, and I know I am cute and, most of all, nice, funny, loyal, and people want to be around me. But your biggest weakness, being exposed in front of a group when you are 17, I think is something you never forget. Don't hesitate to share your story. I read all the comments. Also, just what an ignorant thing to say to someone. Beauty is subjective. No one, So this person didn't find you attractive. And they said it in that way. That to me says one thing. Their opinion should mean nothing to you. They have bad taste and they're a crappy person. Would you want a crappy, awful person's opinion on something else in your life at all? Like, oh, I wonder what this crappy, awful person's opinion is on, this food that I like or something. No, you wouldn't want to know what their opinion is on that because they suck. And you certainly shouldn't take their opinion on how you look because I think you're beautiful.
Story 3. Okay, so I've actually never told anyone this, but here goes. When I was younger, my parents were going through a very rough custody battle with me right in the middle of it. I lived with my mom and my dad was very emotional and verbally abusive. He would literally interrogate me so he could have something to take my mom to court with. My mom fought like hell to keep me, and I wanted to be with her. My dad, however, thought otherwise. He would take her to court so many times. I've only ever been present once at these court sessions. But this one day, I forget what exactly was going on, we were at home and my mom was venting and she said, "I won't deal with this again," talking about court. "I'll just pack your bags for you and you can go live with him." I remember being very hurt, but I didn't show it. I felt like she didn't care what she would be sending me to, that I wasn't worth all the time she spent trying to keep me away from him. I questioned her love for me and if that love had faded. I remember it, but we haven't talked about it since. I don't even know if I want to talk about it. Edit, she never actually followed through with what she said. Story 4. You should do everyone a favor and kill yourself. Cut across for attention and down for results. A person who I called Dad at 12 years old. My dad killed himself a few years ago. My wife one day stopped shouting at me mid-argument and said really calmly, "You're the reason your dad killed himself." I walked out that day and haven't spoken to her again. I still think about what she said constantly. Edit, I wasn't the reason at all. He was on a cocktail of antidepressants and he left a note outlining some bad financial decisions and his divorce with my mom 10 years ago. So I know I'm not the reason, but I just can't stop thinking about what she said and why she said it. Your wife is a cruel person. You had nothing to do with what your dad did. Please try to stop thinking of that lie she said to you. She wanted to hurt you deeply and knew how to do it. May the next person you let into your heart be worthy of the warmth.
This kind of stuff is just infuriating because you almost always can kind of assume that when a parent says something like this, and I've heard stories in my life about parents being like this, it is always them projecting their own crappy shortcomings as a person. And so it's not to say that they're right to say that, and I don't even have sympathy for them at this point. Like, I know I'm usually the person who's like, oh, my sympathy doesn't erase, your accountability. No, as a parent, you're not allowed, you can't do that to your child. You can't project your awful insecurities onto them like that. You should be seeking help and therapy to help yourself if you start to feel that way, but to put that on a child, I have no sympathy for you.
Story 5. When I was young, my mom said holidays are better without me. When I was young, my mom said she had to love me, but she didn't like me. It was her careful specificity, and I'm adopted. Effed me up for life. If she was cruel enough to say that, she didn't deserve to be a mother. Also, I've heard biological parents say that to their biological children too. It shows who she is as a person, not you. You are a wonderful person and didn't deserve that. Story 6. I have a daughter with an extremely complicated illness. Almost lost her to it twice when she was almost 3 and again 6 months later. In between, this was 15 years ago, I broke down and wept being so worried about her and how distant my wife had become from me as well. After I settled down, my wife told me that me crying like that had made me less attractive. My daughter is very stable now, and I've been divorced for several years. Story 7. Took my math book up to the teacher's desk with a question. I wasn't grasping it. He slammed my book onto his desk and asked me if I was stupid or what. Small town school about 30 years ago. If I ever run into that prick, I have a few things to show and tell him. In 1984 in a large city, I was getting a C in geometry, and in my family, that wasn't great news, so my dad went to go talk to the teacher about what we could do to improve my grade. The teacher said, and I quote, "I really don't know why you're here, Mr. Revere the Ogre. Girls can't do math. Effed me up for years. I did retake the class over the summer and got an A, but I never took much math ever again.
Hey, teachers, it's your job to teach. And if a student's struggling, then you need to alter how you're teaching it, because that's on you. Like, it sounds like this person was trying. It's not like they were just screwing around and not doing anything. They weren't grasping it. You weren't presenting it right. And even if they were screwing off and, not paying attention at all, not trying, to tell a student, what are you, stupid? Nope, you don't get to do that as a teacher. And that's just gross behavior, and it says a lot more about you as a teacher than it says about any student.
Story 8. You'll never be loved or cherished because you look like me. You will never belong anywhere. No one cares about you enough to actually be there for you. You will be a burden to everyone else. From Dad to 11-year-old me after we argued about how he missed my birthday again. But looking back, I laugh because it seemed like he was projecting his own insecurities onto me. LOL. Story 9. Locked in the bathroom naked. Just look at you. You're fat and ugly. Nobody will ever love you the way I do. Ex-husband. He was right. I married someone who does love me, just not the way he loved me. Thank God. I'm so glad you're being treated the way you deserve. I'm so glad you found the love you deserve. Story 10. I cheated on you, and the only reason I'm telling you is because I'm pregnant. Story 11. I had struggled with infertility for years. At my dad's funeral, my stepsister said, "I bet you feel bad that you never gave him any grandkids." I would never speak to her again. My auntie was infertile, and it completely destroyed her. It's not your fault, and you shouldn't be blamed. Story 12. You're a stupid diaper-wearing cripple, and the world would be better off without you. My middle school bully. For context, I have spina bifida and suffer from total incontinence due to the nerves not working right. I'll kick his butt for you. I'm joining you. Let's do this. Story 13. No one will ever love you. That's the closest I ever got to actually offing myself because I truly believed those words. That's so awful. There are plenty of people who love you, so please don't pay attention to those words.
There are a lot of gross, hateful people in this world who will say this kind of stuff, and I don't think it's ever really called for. Like, I think the only person that you could really say this to is like Hitler or something. But no, for any of you watching, if someone has said something along these lines that no one will ever love you, they are wrong. They are absolutely wrong. Even if you've done some bad stuff, if you've made some mistakes, you've slipped up, you haven't been social or this or that, that doesn't, like, you can get over that. There are ways to make up for stuff, to work on yourself, to get out there and meet more people. So don't ever listen to someone who would say this kind of crap to you.
Story 14. When I was younger, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. My siblings and I shaved our heads to support her. This kid told me that he hopes my mom dies and that I looked like I was in the Holocaust. She's been cancer-free for 13 years, but F that kid. My sister had a kid in her class who held a crumpled piece of paper to his head, turned to her and said, "I look like your father." They were in 5th grade. Our dad had a brain tumor. He died of it. A year later, the same kid's dad hung himself at home. That's when he apologized. F those kids. Story 15. From my boss from my previous job. You're a headache to deal with, and I regret hiring you. I wouldn't be surprised if you don't give your girlfriend, friends, and family a headache. I was hired with this guy fully knowing I had little experience with the position I was hired for. I didn't lie during the interview. Story 16. People like you are a statistic. Once you fail once, you'll keep on failing. Head of school, when I had to repeat a year in undergrad, a consequence of being naive and finding myself in a crappy abusive relationship. I refused to shake hands with him after my final performance and told him that no, I wouldn't go to graduation because I'd have to shake his hand when he asked if I was attending. Also quite enjoyed sending copies of my 3 following degree certificates and signing the letter with Doctor. Prick.
I am so happy that you sent this person the degree certificates and everything, letter copies of them, signed it with a doctor and all that stuff. I hope you also sent a little copy of a picture of you giving him the middle finger or something every time too, because yeah, that person sounds like an absolute prick. And once again, I'm sorry, if you're in a teaching position of some sort, that's not how you handle it. If you say stuff like that, you're doing a bad job.
Story 17. Dad to 12-year-old me for forgetting to close a gate at the end of a 12-hour workday. You are a worthless piece of crap. Hey, was my dad your dad too? No way, you got him too? Story 18. My mom once said to me, I love you, you're my daughter, but I don't like you. I would never seek you out as a friend. I was 21 and it was 40 years ago. I will never get over that. It hurts so much.
I've heard this kind of crap from parents before, and I think it's their way of venting their frustration with stuff, to be like, I don't want to make my kid feel bad. I've got to let them know that I love them, but I don't like them, I don't like what they're doing. And they seem to convince themselves that this is like a nice way of just like correcting a kid's behavior or something. They're like, oh, they'll know that I love them and stuff, so there won't be a problem with this. But parents, you don't realize how crappy of a thing that is to say to your child and how much that can mess with them. So I know you might think that that is a nice way of putting stuff. It sucks.
Story 19. The night before my wedding, my mother drunkenly told me what a horrible, selfish daughter I was. That my wedding was an effing circus. It was tented with cafe lights, and she can't believe what an awful, selfish person I am. Because I had my wedding in the state I lived in for 6 years, and none of her friends/family decided to travel to it. Oh, and she decided she would throw her own reception the next week, the reason no one decided to come to the actual wedding, which forced me to forgo a honeymoon and instead travel to my hometown to attend her second reception. Followed closely for when I tried to hang myself at 11 in my closet, and the rack and shelf fell instead, and she told me, "You're too fat to hang yourself." Story 20. After what I thought was a good relationship in my 30s with my dad, I was having troubles accommodating his wife's son's wedding and my lifelong friend's wedding in the same week in 2 different states in the Northeast. I'm on the West Coast. I brought up the fact that I was having trouble and my dad tried to fight me, has never in my life been physical before, called me a narcissist, that I'm a piece of crap since I was 17, and that I'm not to talk to him ever again, and if he ever sees me again, he will kill me. I didn't even meet my stepbro until my 30s and spoke to him previously about my difficulty finding flights. Anyway, the time of the fight, I was still trying to find flights to accommodate both, but my dad telling me those things made up my mind for me. It's a shame. He's 71, and I probably will not talk to him ever again. I'm willing, but he is not. His white knight meter is out of calibration to say the least. So dumb. Story 21. You're just a little girl. No one likes you. No one wants you around. You're annoying, over the top, and loud. Stop being so effing annoying and maybe someone will want to be with you. Edit to add another one. It's a boy or it's an abortion. I'm not raising a daughter. I miscarried 2 days later. That's awful. I'm sorry that you were treated that way. Story 22. My mom denying her abuse toward me, even almost a decade later, has effed me up more than I thought. She's way better nowadays, but she's still a narcissist. I'm so sorry. Parents should be guardians, not abusers. Story 23. You're too ugly for this industry, when I tried to be a hairdresser. Just effing do it, my own mother telling me to kill myself when I was having a bad day. ETA, wow, didn't expect so much attention from Reddit of all places. I'm okay, as okay can be anyway. I've made as much peace as I'm going to in my situation with my mother. Haven't made much progress in the work thing, but at least I'm taken care of. Thanks for all your concern and encouragement, lovely people. My love to you all.
A, your mother's a bad mother. She's a bad mother and you shouldn't listen to her. It sounds like she's got her own friggin' problems and that's on her and she needs to work on that crap. Because you absolutely should not just effing do it as that. Just what a gross person. So please don't listen to her, and I'm glad you're not. And hey, you know what? you'll get somewhere with the job market and everything. You're going to figure things out. Just keep on trying. Took me years to get into doing the stuff that I like to do. And, it sucks having to try and get there, but when you do, it feels worth it. So, and maybe you'll discover other things that you love more along the way or whatever. Sometimes it's just confidence. I don't know. I'm rambling, but both of these people suck. So don't listen to them.
Story 24. You look like you've gained 30 pounds since you moved out. This was a month after said move, and it was only 5 pounds. Story 25. All I ever asked for was a son. You're useless. Edit. This was my dad to me. I'm the youngest kid, all girls. I was his last chance at a boy, so I failed at life the moment I was born. He never forgave me for not being the son he always wanted. That being said, I never forgave him for being an awful person, so I guess we were even. Roll on the floor laughing. He died almost 30 years ago. Ta-ta, mother effer. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.